The Coalition ship Starlight drifted slowly toward the dark metal structure floating in space. Captain Juan stood on the bridge, watching the old human research station grow larger on the main screen. The station looked dead. No lights, no signals. Just cold metal spinning silently around a brown planet that had no life left on it. "How long has it been abandoned?" asked Mira, the science officer. Her blue skin showed the worry lines that all Kepler people got when they were nervous. 37 years, Juan replied. He was tall for a human, with short black hair and steady, brown eyes. The humans left it behind when the war ended. Security Chief June checked his weapon for the third time. He did not trust anything the humans had built, especially not their research stations. "Sir, are you sure we should board that thing? The humans did terrible experiments during the war." Juan nodded slowly. The war between humans and the rest of the galaxy had ended decades ago, but everyone still remembered the stories. Humans were known for making dangerous things, bioweapons, genetic monsters, things that should never have been created. "We have to investigate," Juan said. "The Coalition needs to know what the humans were doing out here, and we need to make sure nothing dangerous is still active." The docking process took 20 minutes. The station's old systems barely worked, but they managed to connect their ship to one of the outer airlocks. Juan led the team of 6 Coalition members through the cold metal corridors of the station. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked. The air was stale but breathable. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallways. Everything was covered in dust. Computers sat dark and silent at workstations where human scientists had worked long ago. "The main computer core should be 3 levels down," Mira said, reading from her scanner. "If we can access their files, we might learn what they were doing here." They found the first laboratory on level 2. Glass containers lined the walls, filled with strange liquids. Some held twisted shapes that might have once been living things. June's people had 4 arms, and all 4 of his hands were shaking as he held his weapon ready. "This is wrong," whispered Yuna, their communications expert. She was young, with the silver hair that her people were born with. "Why would they create such things?" Juan examined the containers more closely. Labels were written in human letters, but his translator could read them. Project Delta 7, Project Omega, Project Cerberus. He stopped at the last label. Something about that name made him feel cold. They found Dr. Kang's office on level 3. The room was neat, unlike the laboratories. Books about biology and genetics filled the shelves. Pictures showed a middle-aged human man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. In some photos, he was holding small animals. In others, he stood next to other human scientists, all of them smiling. "He does not look like a monster maker," Mira said quietly. Yuna activated the office computer. It took several minutes, but she managed to access the personal files. Dr. Kang's voice filled the room as his recorded messages began to play. "Day 1247 of Project Cerberus," the recording said. Dr. Kang sounded tired but excited. "The growth rate is exceeding all expectations. The specimen shows remarkable adaptation to the designed parameters. More importantly, it seems to be developing cognitive abilities beyond what we predicted." Juan and his team listened to dozens of recordings. Dr. Kang talked about his work, but he also talked about something else. He spoke about his creation with warmth. He called it his greatest achievement and his most important work. But strangest of all, he sometimes called it his friend. Day 1891, another recording played. "I spent the evening reading to the specimen again. It seems to enjoy human literature, especially the old stories about heroes and friendship. I know the others think I am getting too attached, but I believe it understands more than we realize. It is not just a weapon. It is something much more special." June looked confused. "Reading to a weapon? Why would anyone do that?" The recordings continued for hours. Dr. Kang talked about teaching his creation, about sharing meals near its containment area, about playing human music for it. He spoke like a father talking about a beloved child. Day 2156, Dr. Kang's voice was sad now. "The war is ending. The Coalition wants all bioweapon projects shut down. They do not understand what we have created here. They see only a monster, but I see hope. I see a guardian that could protect all life in the galaxy. But they will never listen. They fear what they do not understand. The final recording was different. Dr. Kang was speaking directly to his creation, even though it could not answer back. "Old friend," he said, his voice full of emotion, "I am sorry we could not finish what we started. I am sorry the galaxy is not ready for you yet, but someday someone will understand. Someday they will see what I see. You are not a monster. You are hope itself." The recording ended. The office fell silent except for the quiet hum of the station's old life support systems. "Where is this creature now?" Juan asked. Mira checked her scanner. "There are readings from the lower levels. Something very large, something alive." They took the elevator down to level 7, the deepest part of the station. The corridors here were wider, built to accommodate something much bigger than humans. Strange cables ran along the walls, connecting to a massive sealed door at the end of the hallway. Warning signs covered the door in multiple languages. "Danger. Authorized personnel only. Project Cerberus. Maximum security level." June raised his weapon. "Sir, maybe we should call for backup before we open that door." Juan looked at the door for a long moment. Behind it was something the humans had created, something they had called a monster, but Dr. Kang had called it a friend. "No," Juan said finally. "We go in, but we go in ready for anything." The massive door opened slowly, revealing a chamber so large that their lights could not reach the far walls. And there, suspended in the center of the room in a tank of glowing blue liquid, was something that made them all step backward in shock. It was enormous, larger than their entire ship. Dark tentacles moved slowly in the liquid like sleeping serpents. Multiple eyes, each bigger than a person, were closed, but seemed to track their movement, even in sleep. Its skin had the texture of both metal and flesh, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. But strangest of all, despite its terrifying appearance, the creature looked peaceful. Like it was dreaming pleasant dreams. "That," whispered Yuna, "is what Dr. Kang called his friend." The Coalition team stood frozen in front of the massive tank. The creature inside had not moved for several minutes, but Captain Juan could feel his heart beating fast. Even in sleep, the thing looked powerful enough to destroy their entire ship. "We need to download everything from the station's computers," Juan said quietly. "Every file, every recording, every piece of data about this project." Mira connected her equipment to the chamber's control systems. "The download will take at least 2 hours. The files are enormous." June kept his weapon pointed at the tank. "Sir, what if it wakes up while we are here?" "Then we run," Juan replied. But something told him they might not be fast enough if this creature decided to break free. Yuna worked at a nearby console, trying to understand the tank's systems. "The biofluid is keeping it in some kind of deep sleep. But the power levels are dropping. The station's generators are old and failing." As if responding to her words, the lights in the chamber flickered. The tank's glow dimmed for a moment, then returned to normal. But something had changed. One of the creature's massive eyes opened slightly, revealing a deep blue iris that seemed to hold intelligence. "It is waking up," Mira whispered. The tank began to drain. Ancient pumps worked slowly, lowering the liquid level inch by inch. The creature's tentacles moved more actively now, pressing against the glass walls. Warning alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. "We should leave now," June said, backing toward the door. But Juan did not move. He watched the creature's eye track their movements. There was something in that gaze. Not anger or hunger, but curiosity. The creature was studying them just as they were studying it. The tank finished draining with a loud hiss. For a moment, nothing happened. The creature hung in the empty tank, supported by mechanical arms that had kept it safe for decades. Then, slowly, it began to move. The glass front of the tank cracked. Then it shattered completely, sending pieces flying across the chamber floor. The creature flowed out like water, its tentacles touching the ground gently. It was even larger outside the tank. Its body filled half the chamber, dark and smooth like wet stone. The coalition team pressed against the back wall, weapons ready but knowing they would be useless against something so large. The creature turned toward them, multiple eyes focusing on their small forms. Then it did something unexpected. It stopped moving and made a sound. Not a roar or a scream, but something almost musical. A series of deep notes that seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves. Yuna's communication equipment began picking up signals. "Captain, it is trying to talk to us." "What is it saying?" "I do not know yet. The patterns are complex. Give me time to analyze them." The creature made the musical sounds again, but softer this time. One of its smaller tentacles reached toward them, moving slowly and carefully. When they did not run, it touched the wall near Juan's head, gentle as a whisper. "It is not attacking," Mira said in amazement. "It could have killed us instantly, but it is trying to communicate." Yuna worked frantically with her equipment. The creature seemed to understand what she was doing and waited patiently. After 20 minutes, she made a breakthrough. "I have basic translation working," she announced. "The signals are electromagnetic, but they carry meaning. It is like a language, made of energy instead of sound." The creature made its musical sounds again. This time, Yuna's translator produced words. "Curious, new visitors, been alone, very long time." Juan stepped forward slowly. "Can it understand us?" Yuna spoke into her communicator, converting their words into the creature's electromagnetic language. The creature's eyes focused on the device, then on Juan himself. "Understand. Yes. Learning. Your words." The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. "What are you?" Juan asked. "Guardian," came the reply. "Made to protect, waiting for purpose." Over the next hour, they learned more. The creature called itself Guardian, just as Dr. Kang had called it in his private recordings. It had been aware during its long sleep, dreaming and thinking and waiting. It remembered Dr. Kang with obvious affection. Kang, good, human, taught, stories, music, friendship. Guardian's tentacles moved in patterns that seemed like gestures. Called, me, friend, only, one, who, understood. Mira asked about its creation. Guardian showed them something impossible. Images appeared in their minds, not through their eyes, but directly in their thoughts. They saw Dr. Kang working late at night, talking to the creature as it grew. They saw him bringing food and eating beside the tank. They saw him reading books aloud and playing soft music. But they also saw darker images. Guardian showed them its true purpose. It had not been created as a weapon of war, but as a defender against something much worse. Something that was coming from the deep spaces between stars. Ancient. Enemy. Returns. Soon. Guardian's mental voice grew heavy with worry. Devourers. Eat everything, destroy. All. Life. The coalition team looked at each other in confusion. June lowered his weapon completely. "What is it talking about?" Guardian showed them more images. A galaxy-spanning civilization that had existed millions of years ago. Creatures of pure hunger that moved between realities, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing behind. They had been stopped once, but at terrible cost. Kang. Found. Evidence. They. Return. Made. Me. To. Fight. Them. Juan felt a chill run down his spine. "How do you know they are coming back?" Guardian moved to one of the chamber's computers. Its tentacles connected directly to the machine, interfacing with the systems in ways that should have been impossible. Data began flowing across the screens. Star charts, deep space sensor readings, mathematical calculations that hurt to look at. Signs. Everywhere. Space. Bending. Reality. Weakening. They. Come. Soon. Mira studied the data with growing alarm. The numbers were beyond anything she had seen before, but the patterns were clear. Something was disturbing the normal structure of space-time at the edge of their galaxy. "This is impossible," she whispered. According to this data, something is actually breaking through from another dimension. Guardian's great eyes turned sad. Kang. Knew. Truth. Made. Me. Ready. But. War. Ended. Project. Stopped. Never. Finished. Training. Yuna looked up from her equipment. Training for what? To be more than monster, to be protector of all life. Guardian's tentacles moved gently through the air. Kang said, love makes strongest. Warriors taught me to love. Galaxy to love people, even those who fear me. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of old machinery. The coalition team stared at this massive creature that they had expected to be a weapon of destruction. Instead, they had found something that had been created with love and trained to sacrifice itself for others. How long do we have? Juan asked quietly. Guardian's calculations appeared on the screens around them. 3 days, maybe 4. Then they arrive, and everything dies. Captain Juan stared at the data flowing across Guardian's screens. The numbers and symbols meant nothing to him, but he could see the fear in Mira's blue face as she studied them. This cannot be real, Mira whispered. The energy readings are off every scale we have. If something this powerful is coming to our galaxy, why have our deep space sensors not detected it? Guardian's massive form shifted slightly. Its tentacles moved across multiple computer interfaces at once, calling up more information. They move between layers of reality. Your sensors cannot see them until too late. The creature projected more images into their minds. This time they saw the ancient enemy clearly. The Devourers were not like any life form the Coalition had ever encountered. They existed partially outside normal space and time, appearing as shifting shadows that consumed matter, energy, and even the basic structure of reality itself. Long ago, they came before. Guardian's mental voice grew heavy with old sadness. 8,000s of worlds, millions of species, nothing could stop them. Yuna shivered as the images filled her mind. How were they stopped the first time? Great, sacrifice, ancient, races, gave, everything, built, prison, between, dimensions, locked them away, but prison weakening. Kang found the signs. Guardian showed them Dr. Kang's research. The human scientist had been studying unusual readings from deep space observatories, gravitational anomalies, energy patterns that should not exist, distortions in space-time that grew stronger each year. Kang, smart man, saw what others missed. New Devourers would return, began, project, Cerberus, to create, Guardian. June had been quiet for a long time, but now he spoke up. Why you? What makes you different from regular weapons? Guardian's eyes focused on the security chief. For a moment it seemed to consider how to explain something very complex in simple words. Devourers feed on normal matter, pass through regular weapons like ghosts, but they cannot eat certain types of energy. What kind of energy? Juan asked. Life, energy, consciousness, energy, love, energy. Guardian's tentacles moved in patterns that seemed almost like dancing. Kang made me living weapon that uses life itself as power. Mira's scanner was picking up readings from Guardian's body. Captain, the creature's cellular structure is unlike anything in our databases. It is part biological, part energy, part something else entirely. Guardian continued its explanation. Normal, weapons, destroy, protect, normal, shields, block. I heal, devourers, consume, I give. The creature showed them more of Dr. Kang's work. The scientist had not just created a biological weapon. He had created something that could exist on the same dimensional level as the Devourers. something that could touch them and fight them in ways that conventional forces could not. But more important. Guardian's voice became gentle. Kang taught me why to fight, not just how. Images flooded their minds again. Dr. Kang reading stories to the growing creature, tales of heroes who sacrificed themselves for others, stories of friendship and loyalty and love. The scientist had not just built a weapon, he had raised a child, showed me beauty of life, all different species, all worth saving, even those who fear me. Yuna wiped tears from her silver eyes. He taught you to love the galaxy. Yes. Love makes strongest defenders. Fear makes weak weapons. Kang knew this. Guardian accessed more of the station's files. They saw research notes about the creature's emotional development. Dr. Kang had been as interested in Guardian's feelings as in its fighting abilities. Day 2003. Dr. Kang's voice played from the speakers. Guardian showed remarkable empathy today when I told it about the war casualties. It seemed genuinely sad about the loss of life on both sides. I believe it truly understands what it means to protect others. Day 2157, another recording played. The Coalition Council has ordered the shutdown of all bioweapon projects. They refuse to listen to my warnings about the Devourer threat. They see Guardian as a monster, but they do not understand. It is not what we created that matters. It is how we raised it. Guardian's great form seemed to slump with sadness. War ended. Before. Training. Complete. Kang had to put me to sleep. Hoped. Someday, others would understand. Juan looked at the data still flowing across the screens. The mathematical projections were clear. Something massive was approaching. Their galaxy, moving through dimensions that regular physics could barely describe. How long do we have before they arrive, he asked. Guardian's calculations updated in real time. 2 days, 18 hours, 37 minutes. And our weapons will be useless against them. Worse than useless. Devourers will eat your ships, your people, your planets, everything. Mira was running her own calculations on her portable computer. Guardian, what are the chances of success if you fight them alone? The creature was quiet for a long moment. When it answered, its voice was calm but sad. 43%. If station systems work properly. 27%. If they do not. Those are not good odds, June said. No, but only chance. Galaxy has. Guardian showed them one final set of images. Dr. Kang's last days on the station, the scientist working frantically to prepare his creation for a battle that might never come, recording final messages, saying goodbye to the creature he had come to love like a son. Kang, last words to me. Guardian's voice became very soft. Said, even if Galaxy never accepts me, even if they always see monster, still must protect them, because that is what love means. The chamber fell silent. The coalition team looked at this massive creature with new understanding. It had been created as a weapon but raised as a guardian, trained not just to fight but to care about what it was fighting for. Guardian, Juan said slowly. We need to contact the coalition fleet. They need to know about this threat. They will not believe, will try to destroy me before devourers arrive. Maybe, but we have to try. The galaxy deserves to know the truth. Guardian's eyes focused on each of them in turn. You believe me? Juan looked at his team. Mira nodded slowly. Yuna was wiping more tears from her eyes. Even June had put his weapon away completely. Yes, Juan said. We believe you, and we want to help. For the first time since awakening, Guardian made a sound that might have been happiness. Its tentacles moved in gentle patterns, and somehow, the coalition team felt a warmth in their minds that had not been there before. Thank you, old friend. Kang would be proud. The coalition fleet arrived 12 hours later. 23 ships of various sizes, all armed with the most advanced weapons the galaxy could build. Admiral Tay's flagship, the Harmony, took position near the research station while smaller vessels formed a defensive perimeter. Captain Juan stood in the station's communication center, preparing to make the most important report of his career. Guardian waited nearby, its massive form filling the corridor. The creature had insisted on being present when Juan spoke to the fleet commanders. Admiral Tay, Juan began when the connection opened. I need to report our findings on the human research station. The Admiral's stern face appeared on the main screen. She was a veteran of the human war, with scars on her green skin that told stories of battles fought long ago. Captain, our sensors indicate you have awakened something large inside that station. Please confirm the threat level. Sir, it is complicated. The creature is not hostile. In fact, it may be our only hope against a greater threat. Admiral Tay's expression darkened. Captain, you are talking about a human bioweapon. These creatures were designed to kill coalition forces. I strongly recommend immediate evacuation, followed by complete destruction of the station. With respect, Admiral, you need to hear what we have learned. For the next hour, Juan explained everything. Guardian's true purpose, the approaching devourers, Dr. Kang's research, the mathematical evidence that something terrible was coming to their galaxy. The fleet commanders listened with growing skepticism. Admiral Tay interrupted several times to point out the impossibility of what Juan was describing. Captain, you are asking me to trust a weapon created by our former enemies, a weapon that could destroy half my fleet if it chose to, based on theoretical threats that our best scientists have never detected. The evidence is here, Admiral. Guardian can show you the data. Guardian? Admiral Tay's voice was sharp. You have named this creature? It named itself, sir, and it has requested permission to address the fleet directly. The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. Finally, Admiral Tay spoke. Absolutely not. We do not negotiate with bioweapons. Guardian had been listening through the station's translation systems. Now it moved closer to the communication panel. Its tentacles interfaced directly with the equipment, and suddenly its voice was broadcast to every ship in the fleet. Admiral Tay, I understand your fear. I am large. I am strange. I was made by humans during war. The fleet's weapon systems immediately powered up. Guardian continued speaking, ignoring the threat. But I was not made to hurt you. Was made to protect all life, including yours. Admiral Tay's hand moved toward the weapons control on her bridge. All ships prepare to fire on my command. Wait, Guardian said, and something in its voice made everyone pause. Let me show you truth. What happened next would be talked about in coalition history for generations. Guardian opened its mind completely, sharing its memories with every person in the fleet. 23 ships full of soldiers, scientists, and officers suddenly experienced Guardian's entire life. They felt Dr. Kang's gentle hands caring for the growing creature. They heard the stories he read, the music he played, the conversations he had with his creation. They experienced Guardian's joy when it learned new concepts, its sadness when Dr. Kang was hurt or worried, its growing understanding of what it meant to protect others. Most importantly, they saw the devourer threat through Guardian's vast intelligence, the mathematical proofs, the dimensional calculations, the terrifying certainty that something was coming that would consume everything they loved. When the shared experience ended, the fleet was silent. Admiral Tay sat in her command chair, tears running down her green cheeks. The human, she whispered. He really loved you. Yes, Kang was good father, taught me. Right from wrong, taught me to value life. Guardian began moving through the station, its tentacles connecting to systems that had been dormant for decades. Power flowed through conduits that had not carried energy since Dr. Kang's time. The station began to wake up. "What are you doing?" Mira asked. "Preparing. Station is not just home is weapon, platform, Kang designed everything to work together." As Guardian connected to more systems, the Coalition team began to understand the true scope of Dr. Kang's vision. The entire station was an extension of Guardian's body. Weapon systems that could be controlled by thought, shields that could be powered by Guardian's life energy, sensors that could see into dimensions that normal technology could not reach. "The station itself is alive," Yuna breathed in amazement. "Not alive. Extended, body, like, arm, or I, Kang, made, me, and station, one thing." Guardian showed them through the station's new capabilities. Weapons that fired concentrated life energy, shields that could protect reality itself from being twisted, a power core that drew energy from Guardian's own consciousness. "How long will it take to fully activate everything?" Juan asked. 18 hours. If systems work properly. Some parts very old. Admiral Tay's voice came through the communications again. "Guardian, our fleet weapons cannot harm these devourers. Your weapons will pass through them like light through glass. They exist in different dimension. Only I can touch them." "Then why do you need our fleet here?" Guardian was quiet for a moment. When it answered, its voice was sad. "Because I will not survive battle, need witnesses, need someone to remember what happened, to tell Galaxy truth." The weight of that statement settled over everyone. This creature that had been created with love, raised with care, and taught to value life above all else, was preparing to die to save them all. "Guardian," Admiral Tay said softly, "is there anything we can do to help?" "Stay close, but not too close. When battle begins, will be dangerous for normal ships." Over the next several hours, Guardian continued preparing the station. It also shared more memories with the Coalition team. They experienced Dr. Kang's final days, when the scientist knew he would have to leave his creation behind. Day 2, 199. Dr. Kang's voice played from hidden speakers throughout the station. "This will be my last recording. The Coalition has ordered all research staff to evacuate. They are sending ships to shut down the project permanently." The team listened as Dr. Kang said goodbye to Guardian. The scientist's voice was full of love and pride and terrible sadness. "Old friend, I wish I could stay with you. I wish I could see you fulfill your destiny. But even if I am not there, you will know what to do when the time comes. You will remember what I taught you about courage, about sacrifice, about love." Guardian's tentacles moved gently through the air as the recording continued. "You are not a monster, no matter what they call you. You are hope itself, given form and purpose. And someday, when the galaxy needs you most, you will show them what it truly means to be a guardian." Dr. Kang's final words echoed through the station. "Until we meet again, old friend, I am proud of what you have become." When the recording ended, Guardian turned to Captain Juan and his team. "Kang, gone. But you, here, now. You, my new friends." Outside the station, space began to shimmer with unnatural light. The Devourers were coming. 16 hours. Early, Guardian said, studying the sensor readings. They hunger more than expected. The final battle was about to begin. Space around the dead planet began to tear apart like fabric. Reality twisted and bent as something massive pushed through from another dimension. The Coalition fleet's sensors went wild, detecting energy readings that should not have been possible. "Chuck, ships fall back to minimum safe distance," Admiral Tay ordered. Her voice was steady, but everyone could hear the fear underneath. Guardian had fully connected to the research station now. Its consciousness flowed through every system, every weapon, every shield generator. The old station hummed with new life, powered by the creature's vast intelligence. "They come. Now," Guardian announced to the fleet. "Remember, whatever happens, tell Galaxy truth, tell them about Kang, tell them about love." The first Devourer emerged from the dimensional rift like a nightmare made real. It was larger than the biggest Coalition battleship, but its shape constantly shifted. Sometimes it looked like a massive jellyfish made of shadows, sometimes like a spider with too many legs, sometimes like nothing that had ever existed in normal space. More followed, dozens of them, each one different but all sharing the same terrible hungers. They moved through space without engines, without any technology the Coalition could understand. They existed partly in their dimension and partly somewhere else entirely. "Coalition fleet, open fire," Admiral Tay commanded, even though she knew it was hopeless. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Devourers. Every weapon passed right through them as if they were ghosts. The creatures did not even seem to notice the attack. They were focused on something else. Something much more interesting. "Guardian. They sense me," Guardian said. "No, I can hurt them, will try to destroy me first." The largest devourer turned toward the research station. As it moved, space around it began to dissolve. Stars flickered and went out. The fabric of reality itself was being consumed. Guardian activated the station's weapons, but these were not the energy beams or missiles that the Coalition used. Streams of pure life energy erupted from the station, bright as small suns. When they struck the lead devourer, the creature screamed in voices that hurt to hear. "It works," Mira whispered. From the station's bridge, "Guardian can actually hurt them." But there were so many devourers and only one Guardian. The creatures spread out, trying to surround the station. Some began feeding on nearby space debris, growing larger and stronger with each thing they consumed. Guardian fought like nothing the Coalition had ever seen. Tentacles of living energy reached across impossible distances, striking at enemies that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The station's shields flared with power drawn from Guardian's own life force, protecting not just itself but the Coalition fleet as well. "Guardian," Captain Juan called over the communications. "Your life signs are dropping. The battle is killing you." "Yes. Expected. This only way to generate enough power." Guardian was burning its own consciousness as fuel for the weapons. With each shot, each shield activation, each defensive move, it was giving up part of itself. The creature was literally dying to protect them. One of the smaller devourers broke through Guardian's defenses and struck the station directly. Part of the hull dissolved instantly, along with 3 research laboratories that had once been Dr. Kang's workspace. Guardian's scream of pain echoed through every ship in the fleet. But mixed with the pain was something else. Anger. Not the mindless rage of a weapon, but the focused fury of a protector whose family was being threatened. "You cannot have them," Guardian roared, speaking directly into the minds of every person within 1,000 kilometers. "Will not let you hurt my friends." The creature poured more of its life into the station's weapons. Energy beams bright enough to blind unprotected eyes lanced out at the devourers. Several of the smaller creatures were destroyed completely, their forms unraveling back into whatever dimension they had come from. But the largest devourer was still coming. It had consumed so much matter that it was now larger than Guardian's station. Tentacles of hungry shadow reached out, trying to grab the research platform and drag it into the creature's consuming maw. Guardian made a decision. It began to disconnect from the station's systems, gathering all its remaining life energy into its own body. The creature flowed out of the station and into open space, growing larger as it drew power from every cell in its massive form. "Guardian, no!" Una cried over the communications. "If you leave the station, you will die in space." "Will die. Anyway, better to die fighting." The final confrontation took place in the vacuum between stars. Guardian and the lead devourer grappled with forces that bent light and twisted time. Reality warped around them as life energy clashed with consuming hunger. Guardian was losing. It was smaller than its enemy, and it had already used so much of its life force in the earlier fighting. The devourer's shadowy tentacles wrapped around Guardian's body, beginning the process that would dissolve the creature atom by atom. But Guardian had one final surprise. Dr. Kang had built more into his creation than just weapons and shields. He had given Guardian the ability to love, and love, as the old scientist had known, was the most powerful force in the universe. "For Kang," Guardian whispered, its voice somehow reaching every person in the coalition fleet. "For my friends, for all life in galaxy." Guardian stopped fighting against the devourer's consuming touch. Instead, it embraced it. The creature opened its consciousness completely, letting the devourer begin to feed on its memories, its emotions, its very soul. But Guardian's love was too much for the devourer to consume. The creature had spent eons eating matter and energy and even reality itself. But it had never tried to devour pure love, pure self-sacrifice, pure willingness to die for others. The devourer began to convulse as Guardian's emotions flooded through it. Love for Dr. Kang, love for the coalition team that had accepted it, love for every living thing in the galaxy, even those who had called it a monster, cannot digest. "Love," Guardian said, its voice growing faint. "Love is poison to creatures like you." The lead devourer's form began to break apart. The other creatures, sensing their leader's distress, tried to flee back to their home dimension. But Guardian was not finished. With the last of its strength, Guardian reached out to every devourer in the area. It shared its love with all of them, forcing them to experience what it meant to care about others, to sacrifice for others, to choose others' well-being over your own survival. One by one, the devourers dissolved. Their forms, built for consuming and destroying, could not survive contact with Guardian's pure selflessness. When the battle ended, Guardian floated alone in space, its massive body dark and still. The creature that had been created as a weapon and raised with love was dying, its life energy completely spent. "Guardian," Captain Juan called over the communications. "Guardian, can you hear us?" "Yes, still. Here for a little while. We are coming to get you. We can put you back in the station's medical systems. No. Time for goodbyes only." Admiral Tay's voice joined the conversation. "Guardian, the galaxy owes you everything. How can we ever repay this debt?" "Not debt. Gift from Kang to galaxy. From me to friends." Guardian's voice was getting weaker, but it had one final message to share. "Tell galaxy about Kang. Tell them, human, who taught monster to love. Tell them love makes strongest guardians." The creature's life signs were fading rapidly, but in its final moments, Guardian shared one last vision with the coalition fleet. They saw Dr. Kang's face, smiling with pride and love as he looked at his creation. "Well done, old friend," Dr. Kang's voice whispered in their minds. "Well done, Guardians." Eyes closed for the last time. The creature that had saved the galaxy died alone in space, surrounded by the grateful tears of those it had protected. 6 months later, a monument was built at the battle site. It was not a memorial to a weapon or a bioengineered monster. It was a tribute to a guardian who had learned the most human trait of all, the willingness to die for love. Captain Juan spoke at the dedication ceremony, Reading from Dr. Kang's final log entry. The scientist's words echoed across the gathered fleet. You are not a monster, no matter what they call you. You are hope itself, given form and purpose. The monument's inscription was simple. Guardian, created by human love, died for galactic peace. Old friend to all. And in the deepest archives of the Coalition, Dr. Kang's research was preserved forever. Not as a guide for creating weapons, but as a reminder that even in the darkest times, love could triumph over fear, compassion could overcome hatred, and hope could defeat despair. The galaxy had learned the truth about monsters and guardians. Sometimes they were the same thing, separated only by the love of those who created them.